Hey guys, it's Maria with Meet Me at Zero, and I just want to thank everybody that's taken the time to listen to my videos and give me feedback. Some of you have asked, you haven't seen it on Facebook. I post every Sunday. I load it to my YouTube channel. You can subscribe. I will try this week to take a day and just share it more often. I'm not sure if it's the algorithm or what. But I kind of wanted to touch, this is probably going to be a 2 or 3 part series, I don't know, on parenthood, belonging, and co-parenting and all that. So I grew up with the same mom and dad, and my mom decided she wanted to have 10 kids. I want nothing to do with kids. I thought I'm just gonna adopt a black one, white one, an Asian one, and that was my idea of not having kids. Growing up in a very controlled environment, we went to church, and I was allowed to go to church and school, college, and then I joined the military shortly, met my kid's father. I had never been out on my own. I'd never been on a date, kissed a boy, touched a boy, done any of that stuff that kids do nowadays by the time they're 14. And so all I thought was I wanted freedom from the environment that I was in, not knowing what I was going to face. So I moved on to Kansas and met with Casey and Lucy's dad, David. I didn't know anything about him. We were very completely different. I would say oil and water. I ended up pregnant with Casey. Okay, we got to get married. Gonna be shunned. This is not good. Nobody said don't get married. Nobody said anything. Nobody gave me any advice. So I got married. Shortly after, I just knew this is not for me. This is not gonna work out. And so I tried to work it out, ended up having Lucy, got my tubes tied, and shortly after separated. Decided to get a divorce, and I filed for a divorce. I paid for the divorce, got full custody of my kids, and I was thinking that he would show up and every other weekend, and I encouraged him to show up. I invited him to different events, to every activity, award, and he was just not present for about 8 years. He had his own things going on and work on himself, things I didn't know. And we talked, a few years ago, and there was just a lot going on. But I thought he would show up and be there for the kids. So through the years, I've seen the implications of not having a dad. It's not an excuse. I know some kids that are raised by their grandparents or one parent and they do great. But ideally, God intended for children to have a mom and a dad for a reason. Not sure where in our society we're at the point, and sometimes I just see the news and I don't know what to think. I have to pray. We women have a lot of power. And so people, I've heard the term that women have the power because they have the vagina. But I'm here thinking that we have the uterus, but really the man is the one that gives life. We can't get pregnant by ourselves. It takes a guy. And so with that said, I think that we also have a great responsibility. I think from the beginning we start wrong, and then we wonder why everything finishes wrong. And so, I've heard people, talk about how this generation, so much is going on. And I'm like, past generations were terrible. People stayed married for the wrong reasons. I don't call commitment getting your butt whooped and being cheated on and abused. If you're in a boat and one person only is rowing, you're going nowhere. Your kids are seeing this toxic behavior. It's not good for you and it's not good for them. Like, what part of that is honoring God? I'm at a loss sometimes. So from the get-go, I think that we start sometimes wrong. And so when I think of the Garden of Eden, and God confronted both of them. Adam and Eve, they both knew each other's transgression. And I think a lot of times in relationship, we start in the wrong foot because we live in a society that we lie, we portray, we fake, we have a front, and nobody wants to be honest from the get-go. And so when you have kids, kids are watching how we do life together in the same family. And I know too many people that are great co-parents. It works out. But then I have this other populace of women that will say things like, well, he's dating this girl, or I don't like her, or, XYZ. And I was a stepmom at one point. So trust me when I tell you, I've heard it and seen it. Nobody's thinking of the kid. So we have a kid that comes into this world. It's not his fault. He didn't ask to come here. Comes into this world like a brand new computer. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just new. It comes already wired with stuff from the manufacturer. So generational curses and stuff that we have no control is already wired to this child that's about to come or that came into this world. And now we're going to add to that he is not belonging from the get-go because mommy got pregnant trying to trap a guy. He's married. She was the side chick. Abusive relationships. And here's this child who is seeing the mom being abused. Here's this child that's not loved by a party. And sometimes it's the mother. A lot of times it's the dad. Or as women, we're making it impossible for men to connect with their children. I just don't understand. For the longest time, I've been a bridge between my kids and their father. I invite him to everything. I tell my kids, this is your father. I've tried to bridge that relationship, and I thank God that we are in a good place today. But for so many kids who don't know who their father is, who've never had a relationship, and for us, the women, to minimize the importance of men and to think that somehow it's acceptable in this age to establish our own families without a man, it's selfish. It's really selfish. People say, well, Maria, some kids, their parent died and they don't have a father. That's completely different. You have no control over somebody else's dying. You have control over how you affect, how your selfish, how my selfish choices affect my children. For me, I didn't know any better. Now the kids are here. I'm going to do the single parent thing. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I would never recommend anybody having kids that you're not certain of who you are as a person yet. You haven't figured yourself out. You're not whole, because we're all broken in some way. It's just a matter of how fast we get to completing our wholeness before we bring a child into this world that we're going to affect with our tainted ways of life, of hurt. We bring a kid into the world. We hate their dad. We hate, we're in so much pain that we don't realize the implication of this little being who's watching, and they watch everything. So we have a two-part problem. We have a problem of people that are staying in marriages for the sake of the kids, thinking the kids don't know that daddy's sleeping around, mommy's sleeping around, daddy's beating mom is in daddy's face, nobody's happy in the house. Or we think somehow that kids are oblivious that other kids have dads and moms, and somehow their mom and dad is not in the picture, but we're not brave enough to tell them it's our fault. They're not here because I'm insecure. They're not here because they have somebody else. They're not here because I have not dealt with my inadequacies to allow that person to be part of the child's life. And so here we are in an age where we find ourselves so easily dismissing another party. I just don't understand. And so for me, who didn't have a co-parent, I admire people who do and do it well. And I know several people that do it well. You have boundaries. For me, I never competed with my kid's father because he had way more income than I did. I always provided the kids' needs. He provided wants and the fun, and that was cool with me. When he became active in their life, I didn't care if he was dating a rhino, a unicorn, as long as he was doing right by the kids. It was not my business to be in his business. All I cared was that my kids belonged. They felt like they belonged. And so I want to continue this chat on the next video. For me, being raised by my parents in church, my parents are almost been married for 50 years. If I'm going to be honest, I would have divorced my parents, 25 years ago at least. Kids should be able to see love, respect, not perfection, but wholeness. A couple working together in sync for the sake of the child, even together or separate, they should see that they are loved regardless, because it's not their fault that they're here. And so on the next topic, next time, I want to talk about a little bit more about the challenges of single parenting, co-parenting, and why it's so important. I talk to a lot of my single friends that are younger, and I tell them, I said, you need to wrap it up twice. You need to be aware of the type of women you're having babies from, because people are deceptive. We live in a very deceptive world. People will paint themselves one way and they're really a different way. Women are wanting to get pregnant because he has the right diploma, he drives the right car, he's from the right family, he might improve my quality of life. And so it gets really complicated when you have not become whole. If you don't know who you are, everything changes. So for me, the girl that got pregnant at the age of 22, who had never dated a soul, who had never done anything that in the world, I had no parameters. And I went from having a very rigid life to figure out what I like, how I like my coffee, what foods I like, and that kind of thing. I've evolved and become the woman that I am today. It hasn't been without heartbreaks and suffering. Single parenting has been the hardest thing I've done. I would never in a million years have children on my own thinking I could do it. For those of you that think, knock yourself out. For me, when it comes to my children and how I failed them in some area, first because I wasn't whole and I didn't even know what the heck I was doing with my personal life. I knew how to take care of them, but while I'm having to mother them, I was still trying to figure myself out. And so in the best interest of children, I think, in the best interest of the souls that are coming that we're account for, I think the more information you know up front, the better. And so, next time I want to talk a little bit more about the dynamics, the importance of dads in kids' life. We do carry the children for 9 months, but it takes a man to give life. So meet me at 0 next time. I hope you have a wonderful night. Be a blessing to somebody. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.